Welcome to Cities Skylines. So what I'm going to be doing in this episode is just going to play around with building a small farm town. So we have the upcoming Green Cities DLC. Figured this would be a good practice for me to get back into the swing of what it will take to build a nice little farming village. So hang in there and we'll kind of get started. So I'm going to start off with just a quick build, get a little bit of city going here. So let's actually get a couple roads coming in. So one of the things I'm going to try to do is I'm going to have a lot of traffic coming into some hopefully residential and commercial over here, and then thinking if we put our industrial on this side, which as you can tell from our nice light green land here, we're going to be doing a little bit of farming. So I think that will allow our industry to get out, but then also to get across over to everything on that side. So let's go ahead and plop down some roads and see what we have to work with here. And don't worry, I'm going to flip this back around. So one of the things I've been doing recently is really cramming a lot of stuff in, so I'm going to try doing a little bit more space and see if that doesn't help with some of this infamous City Skylines traffic. So just do a little suburb back in here. Since this is going to be a farming town, we're going to keep most of this pretty low residential. I'm also going to try to keep things not just in a giant grid, so I'm going to have a little bit of that grid going with nice cross street here, but then I'm going to break off, especially the residential areas. I'm going to keep these a little more kind of unstructured. We'll have some fun with those. We'll see how that goes. So now I don't want these to match up quite exactly, so what I'm going to do, we'll come down here, switch back over to just our straight road. And I'm going to do, let's see if we can get this angle just right. There we go. So let's keep our one-way streets going. Now, commercial, usually follows a bit more of a grid, but I want to keep it a little fun, so what we'll do is just kind of, add a little bit of fun in there. So here we'll extend this on out. Again, not going to worry about being super space efficient. Now, we're going to have to play around to see what exactly we need for roads here. I'm thinking that what I'm going to do is just a little something like that. And then we'll go ahead and come on across with that. One of the most frustrating things about this game is trying to get your roads lined up just right. So I do kind of like this little bit of a pyramid look here. So, oops, and I got to just put down a dirt road. Speaking of which, if you guys are interested in what this is a surprisingly good flowing traffic situation, check out my other video that I've done on a all dirt road city. So let's see, bring this down, tie it across, and that's what I mean here about, again, this frustrating bit of alignment. So I tend to have to come in, turn off our snapping there. Yeah, it's not happy. So just bring that on down, and then good enough. Okay. Now I'm not gonna match this exactly, which I'm sure will drive a couple people slowly crazy, but hey, it's a chance we all have to take. So now we have a nice little bit of zoning for everything. I'm going to extend this area out to some farmland. So let's just take a quick look at our resource tab. So you can see majority of our fertile land is actually in here. So I may end up moving this residential area. We'll kind of play it by ear and see. But all of this area down here is definitely going to be farmland, and probably most of that little area as well. So, you know, our farms are typically nice and square. So let's just come on out with this. Actually, you know, since those dirt roads work so well in my other city, and we are building a farming town after all, let's go ahead and stick with those dirt roads. So again, trying to keep our main set of two-way roads here a little free of a lot of cross streets, so we'll see how that works. And so that we can get a little bit of a grid going here for our farms, we will space this out and trying something that seems to be pretty popular is to try not to have this happen too much. Always trying to keep it as a three-way intersection. So for instance, if I'm living in this neighborhood, it's going to take me a little longer to get out of the city. I have to come through here, turn down, and then if I want to leave, I have to come back up and go down, but that should keep traffic flowing pretty well. I'm going to kind of check on this and see how that does. I may have to have traffic manager over here, so I may have to come in and set some rules for the intersection, but we'll see. We'll see how that goes. So now, let's take our zone tool, grab all of this, and even though you don't need to, I like to come in and just clean this up a little bit, because otherwise it'll bug me. So, alright, I won't worry about fiddling with that too much. So, then over here, let's make a district for our residential and commercial. Now, I also want to, I saw somebody do this I thought was pretty interesting. So we will drop that right in the center. Now, for our pipes, let's go ahead, bring those out, and this will, well, I won't worry too much about lining that up exactly. So bring these out, and we'll drag this part down, get some water in here. Now, since this will be a farming area, we really don't want, you know, a big coal plant pumping out fumes right by our farm. So let's see what we can find for a little bit of wind power. Okay. Actually, these are going to cause issues, so let's keep this just on this road. Because I don't want these businesses, if they need to get into town, to have to go all the way out of the city and back around. It's going to be too much distance for them to travel. So our ratio is not quite right, so I'm going to extend out, if I can remember where our roads are. I'm going to go ahead and extend this out, bring it on up. Flip that around. Now, again, I'm finding it's usually best to connect these this way, but again, we're playing around, we're figuring all this out, so I'll keep an eye on those as well, see how that kind of works, see what we have to do for traffic lights and whether we'll have to adjust that. So again, we will come down here, and let's actually let's do a little bit different setup this time. I'm going to arc that road back, and sadly the roads never quite want to cooperate. see if we can match that curve. We won't worry about getting it exact, but there we go. Now, saw somebody do this that I thought was pretty neat. So if we take this and let's see if this works or if I'll need to use something else. Yeah, I don't think that'll quite work. So let's try the wider road. Let's grab our default. Here we go. Now, there we go. A little bit of a cul-de-sac there. And okay, I like that a little bit better. So let's see if we can match that over here. Nah, it's not cooperating. That's okay. That'll still work. So, not exactly a true cul-de-sac, but it's still a little bit of fun. And I want to come in here as well, and wherever it makes sense, add a couple walking paths just to let everybody have a quick way to get around. You know, the fewer cars we have, the better. I don't really like the way that looks, but we'll leave it for now. So this is honestly one of the best uses of road anarchy I've found so far. Apart from, you know, highway on-ramps and all that, is getting these walkways to actually connect where you want them. So if you do that, you get this weird little almost connection. People will walk across it sometimes, but it always seems to be a bit of a toss-up. So here, this is the way our pathing works. We actually have a bit where the zoning's not quite going to cover there, so we'll go ahead and put a walkway in there as well. People from here can walk around, so here I want to do a little walkway as well, and here also. So again, not the prettiest setup, but it'll work. Here, do a little bit of dirt road. Alright, so I think we'll get some residential in here. And again, we're gonna really keep as much of this as we can low residential. I want to try a little more spread out city. Have some fun with not so many grids, a little bit more of the suburban sprawl. So where I grew up had a kind of similar area like this. You had a main road that was fairly straight, but it's a pretty old city, so all the neighborhoods kind of sneak around. And we'll probably have to, I really wish this zoning over here would attach to that part of the road, but we'll play around with it. Maybe we can find something to help us make that happen later. Alright, so again, this will be our commercial area. And we'll keep most of the businesses and everything off this road to start. See how traffic kind of forms up, and then we'll adjust as we need to. So that's enough of me drawing out zones and talking for a bit. So let's go ahead and start it. See how everything starts to pop in. And hopefully, if we get lucky, we'll get some buildings coming in. But I will go ahead and get a bit of, actually, let's turn off anarchy so I'm not dropping power lines in the middle of buildings. And I think here we'll have to come across on this side. Join up on there. And then one of the great things about having this middle section down the road that I've really seen that I like is you can do this. So It's great when you're starting off, you can run power lines all around, get everything kind of set up without having to worry about coming back in and demolishing them as the zoning starts filling in. So really this has a lot of benefits. Eventually, if we decide with our industrial and our residential here, we can even, just gotta get these folks some water. We can even run a train line down the middle there. We may have to adjust it a little. Actually, let's see if that's gonna fit or what we'll have to do. So, and I haven't unlocked our rail yet, so we will take a look at that when we have that going. So, and they're of course complaining about sewage, rightfully so. Don't want that backing up into your house. So let's join that there. And it does require power. And our window's pretty close, so go ahead and pop that in there. And this map started us off with plenty of money, so not going to be too conservative, but what I will do is speed this up, let some of these folks move in. And while they're doing that, let's get a additional suburb area going on this side. So this will kind of be, you know, when you're going shopping at the store, you look off behind all the commercial, you see that neighborhood off in the back. So we'll gonna sneak this up. Yeah, not quite the angle I was going for. That little bit of bend that you see a lot of the time where it's not quite straight. You know, maybe this house was there, you had to bend the road up to it, or give it a little bit of a real world feel. So I'm going to make this neighborhood a little different from the ones in the bottom, where we're going to connect it on both sides. What that's going to let us do is get a little bit further out without really bottlenecking everybody, just on this one bit. So then let's just wrap this around. Let's go ahead and bring that all the way around. What I'm going to do is just make this part a little park. So let's see what we can fit in here. We can fit the large park. I did decide to play around and made a little dog park as well. So I think we'll stick right at the side, and we'll put a few parks in here to fill the space up a bit. So let's grab this big one. And I don't have nearly as many custom assets and everything that a lot of folks do, so I have to keep it simple, and we'll pop some trees in. We'll try to match these trees that are over here, if I can remember which ones those are. Yeah, it looks about right. So let's pop in a few more around here. And let's get a couple more paths going, and then we'll come back and finish the rest of those. So one thing that I don't quite like about this is this park and the dog park I created aren't the same path, but that's okay. I might play around with Third Anarchy and see if we can go over top of that. And we can. Now let's see with Move It if we can actually bring that down a little. No, it's gonna keep our road stuck right to the top there. It's not gonna let me grab just that road. Maybe if I extend it out a bit. Let's try that. Yeah. So, okay. So, we'll just deal with that. Actually, let's make it a little fun and tie that in. So, turn that off. Bring that up there. And then this will kind of be, you know, maybe this will be our newer neighborhood, so to speak, and this is maybe your older area, a little more rustic. You have maybe some more dirt paths, and this is the newer gentrified area, if you will. I have a feeling that our volume's off a little, so we dial that down and see what that does for us. Jump back to our trees. Pop a few more in there. Alright. Now, before I come in with too much more zoning, let's bring this on across. And that way what we can do is just have a nice place for, you know, you're in the park, you want to walk over, get some shopping done. Nice and easy. And I have not been keeping an eye on my resources. Let's pop another one of those down. Let's check our water. So our water and sewage are okay. We seem to have kicked a few people out of their homes by way of having no power, so hopefully those folks come back in. And they are very impatiently reminding me that they need some trash pickup. Now, this is a perfectly fine place for pickup, except that our road network goes the wrong way. So let's flip this around and put it over on this side. And you can see our people aren't too happy with me. We've got a bit of crime going on. Now for our healthcare, what we're going to do is just go ahead and stick this right over here. So that'll allow our ambulances into this neighborhood. And then what I'm going to do is just put another one over here, so that way they can work their way around. Now for our death care, we'll try to keep some of our services on this main road out here. And let's actually move this down. There we go. Now let's check. Of course, our fire situation's pretty bad as well. Now this is the area where, in using the roads more like, let's find it, more like this, and then instead of this two-way, it makes your services a lot easier to plan, because if you put this here, that fire truck can just pull right out and go either way down that road. But that's okay. We're trying this. We'll see how it works. So we'll put one there, one over here, and one down here. Again, let's see. So, need a bit more power. Put in a couple more windmills. That should be alright. Now, let's get a couple police stations in here. So, keep that. That spread seemed pretty good. So, let's see if we can get you guys one over here. We'll put you... Let's shift all these down. And, of course, we really don't want our police station in the cul-de-sac, so let's just adjust that. And we've messed up our zoning a bit, so we'll come in and just clean up all our edges. Okay. Now, again, here's a real issue. So, I think our flow at this area isn't quite right. So, you can come in and go out that way. But I'm thinking that we'll probably need to just go ahead and set these up this way. Actually, so this is believe, the road expansion mod, so this gives you a handful more roads. These ones are really great. They managed to fit a 4-lane road in the space of a normal 2-lane, but you lose the on-street parking. As far as I've been able to tell, parking isn't that big of a deal in this game, so... But just to keep in the spirit of the game, I try to use these sparingly. I try to just use them when it fixes some traffic issue that would otherwise be in the game. So, okay, let's start that going again. See how our traffic fares now. So let's extend this section out. Make this kind of like your regional recycling center. And of course, with the Green Cities mod coming out, I believe next week, we'll have some actual real recycling centers. But that's the great thing about this game. There's a wonderful modding community that's created just about anything you could really want. So let's see if we can get this where it's not really gonna bother our residents too much. So again, this is one of the issues of our suburb or our neighborhood design, is you'll see a little bit of issues where services can't quite get down to these areas like they should. So again, you'll have to put a few more services if you build like this, but that's a trade-off I'm willing to make in this case. Now the interesting thing here is I'm not really sure why no one's building down here. It may just be because I really need residential, so let's go ahead and fill that in. Now again, I want to try to keep this off the main road, keep all of our services out there so they have good access, or you know, as good as we can get with this setup. So we'll add all these in and get this squared away. I always have this silly fear that as I go through and do this, I'm gonna, you know, get that set up and then they'll start building before I can come back in and zone, and I'll have to demolish them so they actually fill in all the space. So far it hasn't really been an issue, but we'll see. Alright, let's get some pipes in here. Get these guys some water, and we'll bring this up, and the same up here. You can see we're starting to get some areas that are abandoned, and I think part of this reason is I completely forgot about our specialization. The whole point of our town was to be able to have a little farming village, and I forgot to tell them to start farming. Now you can see we are losing money pretty badly, 4,000. Now some of that's going to get fixed as people start moving in, but one of the best things I've found is if you come into policies and under city planning, I go ahead and turn on small business enthusiast, big business benefactor, and industrial space planning. So see, it's already starting to tick up. Now part of that's again people moving in, but I have yet to find a city where turning these on does not help you out at least some. And slowly going. So we'll let that help us out a little. Again, I don't know if they will balance that out in any of these updates. Something that's a little overpowered, as I've yet to find a real downfall to turning it on, but there's definitely a lot of upsides to it. So need another power plant in here, so we'll drop one of those. How's our water doing? So let's look at our flow. I'm just about to the point where I will need to switch out for a water pump, and we have no flow over here. So what my fear is eventually this is just going to fill this whole area. So let's do this instead. We are going to get that as far over to the side as we can. Going to run this pipe over to there. We will extend our power line over. I will then... Actually, I'm not 100% sure if I have the barriers. And hey, and I do. Okay. So I wasn't sure which expansion this came in, but looks like we will be okay. So now I want to build flood wall. Let's see if this will cooperate. I haven't done this before. Okay. Nope, so that's not going to work for us. So we'll demolish that. There's a different method you can use to kind of segregate this off, but I don't really want to just terraform a big jetty here. It doesn't look very realistic, so what I'm going to try to do is pretty much terraform a big jetty, but then try to use some quays and flood walls and make it look more like a kind of tourist attraction. And maybe we can even put a park or some different props out there to make it look a little more like somewhere you'd want to see. So I'll probably speed this section up just so you don't have to sit here and watch me terraform. And we're back. Okay, so right now, unfortunately, thanks to our poo water, this has caused some ground pollution. So if we look at this, you're going to see right now a little bit of ground pollution here. It's going to kind of spread out, and then once the simulation runs for a little bit. So what we can do is let this sit, and it should kind of clean itself out. If it doesn't, then I'm going to have to find a mod that will let me clean that up. So let's check our systems, and sure enough we are pretty close. So I'm going to put a pump right out here. We may get a little bit of that water, but we'll see how that goes. And I really don't want to have to put power lines running all the way around here, but I think we might have to. So, worse things have been done. Okay. Now, if I look at my order availability, we are good. So I'll come in and if I can get it to select the right thing. Nope, I cannot. Alright. We'll demolish that. So let's just take a look. And we are unfortunately losing quite a bit of money. So let's go ahead and do this. Slow that simulation down a bit. And let's take a look at our electricity production. So we have a little bit better wind up here. So I'm going to drop those in, see if we can get a little bit more wind going. That's helping out these areas quite nicely. Alright, our healthcare looks okay. We have 2 death care, 2 health. Everybody's pretty good. Average health of 80, so not too bad. How's our fire? Not great, especially considering this. So maybe what we can do is give them a quick access rate. Now, don't know if this will work, but let's find out. So, gonna do a little bit of anarchy. Actually, here we go. So, can't quite get my 90 degrees, but let's now check our coverage. Okay, so sadly that does not work. That's fine. What we're going to do is we're going to make this a laneway because those have a nice low speed limit, so we shouldn't have any issue with people using this as a cut through to get up to this road. Although right now, of course, nothing really at the end, so not too big of a concern there. But now if we check, alright, much better. So I may put in a couple of these, we'll call them access roads, not like you see the emergency services have in real cities. So, and then we're just going to come in and check how we're looking for traffic lights. Right now, no traffic lights anywhere, so that works. Now, police coverage, decent, so they can cross right out here. Gets where they need to be. Actually, I believe I need to put this right there. So that should, yeah, there we go. It's a little bit better. So now we can come out, turn around, and go wherever they need to from there. And again, a little access, just so. And there we go. Sorry guys. Your homes had to be sacrificed for the greater good. So we have a fair amount of residential. This really highlights the ratio of what you need. In a lot of the sim games I've played in the past, you know, you could get away with almost equal parts residential and commercial and industrial, but here you really need a lot more residential, especially when you use low density like this. So let's go ahead. Oops, wrong one. Again, I'm going to try to keep this low density, sorry, depending on what this will let us get away with. Again, if it looks like we're going to have to cover this whole area in residential just to get enough farming for right there, we made all that back. We'll see how that goes. Now let's take a quick look at traffic. Traffic's great. Not many people in the city, so no surprise there. Okay, that's what I was thinking. So I accidentally left on our unlock everything, which is fine. But you can see we are starting to run lower on money, and we have a lot of residential demand. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and turn all these off. So even though we put them down, clearly not using them yet, so rather than having them flash all of their warnings at us and complain about all the things they don't have, we'll do that. Help out a little bit. Now, so this is the first time I've played this, I guess, region. So everything looks a little bit different. I actually really like this. I've been playing the, I guess, vanilla-est of vanilla, which gets kind of boring, so let's get our school right here. And again, so that we get that just a little bit of overlap there. So now school buses going from there should be able to get down to that side and up to there. Not quite sure how well that's going to cover us. So again, suburb area might not be the best given City Skylines handling of bus routes for the schools, but we'll see what we need. High schools have a wide enough reach to where they should be okay. Luckily, elementary school's pretty cheap, 160, whatever that is. We'll call it, yeah, I'll think of a good name. We'll come back to that. Let's check how our crime is doing. Now, we don't really have any coverage over here, but that's okay right now. Let's check power. Power's doing decent, but we're gonna outstrip that pretty quick. Now this is something interesting. As you put down more of these, I'm guessing the idea is they're blocking the wind from others. So you saw when I dropped that, the wind dialed back. So one thing to keep in mind, and when I started putting these here, this was all that color. So I'm actually gonna move a couple of these. I'm gonna leave one just so we have good coverage for joining up the power lines, but that should be okay. So yeah, and you can see just pulled all that out from right there. Now I will replace a lot of these with the advanced wind turbine out here, but we'll save that for a little while. Okay. Now, I think some of our money problems might be because multiple power stations, so let's just turn that off for right now. And let's look at our budget. Where's our biggest healthcare? Okay. So given that healthcare is pretty good, we have 80%, I'm gonna turn that off temporarily. Again, I'm just trying to get everything kind of up to speed. I'll turn that one off. And our little emergency access lane should give us enough coverage to cover most people. Our traffic still looking okay. This is something I don't really like. Now I think if we can change this to 3 lane one way, so you're coming in, you can go straight on these two, or turn there, and we'll flip that around. Okay, so this is almost a mini roundabout. That should keep people coming in, turning that way. Few less zigzag turns. Alright, so dialed back some of our facilities, and now we're doing okay. See, we still have a huge amount of residential demand, so I'm going to go ahead and extend this up, kind of fill in that area. Hey, made our first profit, so let's turn some of these snaps back on. Make this road a little bit easier to keep it straight. Okay. And I'll flip this around. Okay, so now they are nice and happy. Let's go ahead and, before I forget, put a couple laneways in, just so that these folks can get across for all of their services. Okay. What is our cost difference on this? So, marginally small, but since we're having some budget issues, we will go ahead and use this. Now, just noticed a little thing that'll help us fill that in. That'll probably end up demolishing that house, but that's okay. Well, if we get replace something a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna try not to destroy these houses if I can. So I think I'm gonna just err a little bit on the side of caution, and we'll probably come back in and fill this area in, but for right now, kind of like splitting the difference around these trees. Kind of use some of this natural landscape to help us out. So, again, we'll really have to. This is kind of about just playing around, seeing what works. So hopefully you guys can kind of learn from my mistakes, so to speak, here, which is really if you're going to do this sort of structure, keep in mind that your services are going to have to go, if you put them out on your main road, they're going to come all the way up. So a lot like my neighborhood, for instance, long road, a lot of branching off areas. So we have most of our city services are actually on the road itself, just to make it a little easier, and in case of emergency, if they had to get out to us, or if we had to, obviously go to school. So, and I'm hoping this is going to look a little bit better as we start filling everything. And it kind of looks a little goofy right now, but actually, I'm kind of liking that setup. I may come back in and play around with cul-de-sacs, and kind of like the idea. I wish it would zone around on this side. Sadly, it doesn't give you anything out here, so I may have to do a little move it trickery and anarchy and put a road on top and turn it, and we'll kind of see if we can get some zoning out here if we need to later on. And of course, as this starts filling in, then all of the traffic in the city basically is going through this intersection, so I'm thinking we're going to set up a couple bus routes, maybe gather each neighborhood and maybe bring them out and have a few short bus loops. Again, not a giant city, so we won't do a ton of buses, and we're pretty spread out, but let's go ahead and quit talking and let's get some of this taken care of, so we can get our budget back in the black, so to speak. Alright, now our power doing okay, so let's come down here and go ahead and round this off so people can actually get where they need to go. And then we will come in and just start filling this. And again, keep everybody off the main road as best we can. And that autosave always gets me. Always makes me feel like I've just broken something. Freezes the game just long enough to make me a little worried, but then it comes right back. Alright, of course we'll have to extend a few services out here, so let's go ahead and get a... well actually, let's let all these folks build first. I think, obviously if you make your own park you're gonna like it, but I've been pretty happy with this little dog park. It looks pretty good. It fits in kind of a small house space and kind of helps fill in. Looks decent. So, and one of the nice things is you can kind of come in, join up that path if you want. And so many neighborhoods have these little areas back behind where you can kind of get out of the city, so to speak, and wander around. Of course, not much of a city for our area here, but nice nonetheless. Let's get a couple trees back here, kind of fill this in. And I have prop anarchy on. I should probably turn that off so we're not dropping trees in people's houses. It's nice to mix in the colors a bit, so you're not just the same tree over and over again. Of course, the game does a little bit of that on its own, but I still like to mix up the colors. Especially, it's fall time, so it doesn't necessarily bring that across in the game, but you can kind of get the feel of a little bit of that with these slightly browner trees, some greener trees. So, and it's really amazing what adding some trees in your town will do. So if you're looking at it and you're really going, why does this look so bland? A lot of the times it's just because you're seeing so much grass in between everything. So a few trees, drop them in, really helps kind of make the place look a bit more interesting. So you can already see, you know, that looks a lot more like, you know, the real world. A few trees, new development comes in, they tear down a lot, but they keep some of the ones in the middle, kind of give you a little bit of green space. Also, really like, you know, you'll see a lot of areas where you're driving down and the neighborhood's kind of hidden away behind some trees, so try to keep that look as well. Again, mixing in a little bit of different color just to kind of see what look we can get without taking too much time. Again, I'm not the type who's going to spend hours doing all this, but I do like to make it look, you know, at least decent. And I'm going to come in and have plenty of buildings connecting now, so we will go ahead and get rid of these power lines. That looks okay. So now, I'm starting to get some buildings in, and we probably need to make this area a bit more desirable. So, drop in a park out here, and put a playground in the middle there. Now, one thing I'm going to do before everybody starts moving in is let's go ahead and fix that. Okay, there. Now you have a nice little area. So these folks can walk over to this park. These people can walk down, visit that one if they'd like. Again, City Skylines, people don't really visit each other. They tend to go to work or go shopping. So you won't really have people walking from this area over here too much unless they're really going to that park. Now, as we add services, we may get a little bit more of that. So for instance, if I put this school in right here, then now if anybody lives over here and goes to that school, could potentially walk over. Not sure, you know, if anybody can point me to a good resource on how far are people really willing to walk. That'd be awesome. I always wonder, you know, how it seems like they're willing to walk pretty far, but I never really know. So just playing around with, you know, a few paths in here, especially these ones are great where you can just squeeze it in between a building. Now here I lost that bit of trail, so let's see. Keep that zoning a little bit. So I try to keep as much zoning as I can, just so it's a little bit easier to fit some full houses. I really like what those larger 4x4 houses look like. I'm curious what Green Cities is going to bring. So you have these nice little condominiums, as well as some smaller ones mixed in. It's nice to see some ranch homes, so you get a good mix. And a lot of times when you're not doing a perfect grid, you end up with all these real small little spaces, which is a little more realistic for some areas. But again, I don't think everyone lives in this small of a house on that small of a yard, so it's nice to kind of mix it all in. Okay, now you can see we're slowly building up our income there. I'm gonna go ahead and speed it up then, and our commercial demand has gone up, so we'll go ahead and finish zoning this area. So just bring this on around, and should balance this out. I've always kind of liked the way these look when they start building their farms in. Now, this is a bit of a issue where you have all these farms, but you also get I think I didn't quite extend my zone. Yep, so here's where you have to be very precise. Otherwise, you don't get a good mix of really what you were hoping for. So And let's just extend that out. Now let's check where our fertile area is. Okay, so we have a bit more land we can use, and probably the first tile we're going to buy wrong tab. When we start filling this one up, I'm going to pick this tab because you can see we have all this great farmland down. So I like the idea of kind of, maybe we'll build the residential side kind of snaking up around here. We can build our industrial down through here, maybe some commercial along the water, maybe even a little bit of tourism around here. Obviously, after we clean up the poo water, you don't really want tourists and your sewage mixing, so we will tackle that later. But pretty happy with the start. You know, we're profitable. You can see now that we've balanced our demand, we're jumping up quite a bit, so we can start turning some of these services back on, making people happy again. And I think you know, we'll drop these last couple services in and then call this an episode. So again, you know, let me know what you think of this format. I'm starting off, so this is my first real time doing a voiceover, so feedback is always welcome. And as Reddit likes to say, remember the human. So keep all feedback civil if you would. So, and I hope you enjoyed. So until the next episode, we will rejoin, as it has named itself, Vermont, in the next one.